which is accelerating to meet the threat of an accelerating virus. So 2 weeks ago, the president outlined a number of steps that we're taking to significantly increase the number of safe places and trusted places Americans can go to get vaccinated, and to ensure that at least 90% of Americans have a vaccination site within 5 miles of where they live by April 19th. One of the steps the president announced was the opening of at least 12 more federally run mass vaccination sites. Last week, we announced 5 new sites in Maryland, Wisconsin, Tennessee, Missouri, and Indiana. And today, we're announcing 3 additional sites. The first is at the Columbia Place Mall in Columbia, South Carolina. The second is at the Colorado State Fairgrounds in Pueblo, Colorado. And the third is at the Minnesota State Fairgrounds in St. Paul, Minnesota, home of the Minnesota State Fair, of course. These 3 new sites bring us closer to the president's goal. Across the country, there's already 25 existing mass vaccination sites that have a combined capability to administer over 95,000 shots per day. And that number is going to continue to grow as we bring additional sites online. So importantly, these new sites will advance our work to equitably distribute vaccines and reach communities that have been hurt the most by the pandemic. And as I've said here before, equity is at the center of these mass vaccination sites. Each one is located in a high-risk community as defined by the CDC's Social Vulnerability Index or other factors. Now, of the more than 2.1 million shots that have been administered at these sites to date, more than 60% have been administered to racial and ethnic minorities. We know there's more to do on this front, and we're committed to efficiency and equity as we accelerate our vaccination program. Now, before I turn it to Dr. Walensky, I want to take a moment to provide some highlights of the progress we're making on vaccinations overall. We're now averaging 3.1 million shots per day over the most recent 7-day period. Over the weekend, there were more than 4 million recorded vaccinations in a single day for the first time. As of today, nearly 1 in 3 Americans and over 40% of adults have at least 1 shot. And nearly 1 in 4 adults are now fully vaccinated. 75% of seniors have now been vaccinated, and more than 55% of seniors are fully vaccinated. So we're headed in the right direction. But as you heard the president say, we're not there yet. The war against COVID-19 is far from over, far from won. The worst thing we could do right now would be to mistake progress for victory. If we let our guard down now, we will see more of our fellow Americans get sick and die unnecessarily. Each of us can act to prevent this. Our message remains the same as it's been all the way through. Do your part, wear a mask, socially distance, get vaccinated when it's your turn, period. Do all of these things, and together, we will save lives, and we will put this pandemic behind us sooner rather than later. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Walensky and then to Dr. Fauci for some important updates.
Thank you, Andy, and good morning, everyone. I want to begin with an overview of some continued concerning data trends. CDC's most recent data show the 7-day average of new cases is about 64,000 cases per day. This is up approximately 7% compared to the prior 7-day period. Hospital admissions have also increased. The most recent 7-day trend average is about 4,970 admissions per day, up about 3% from the previous 7-day period. Deaths have decreased to an average of approximately 800 per day. Importantly, we are now entering our 4th week of increased trends in cases. While we are watching these increasing case counts with concern, the good news is that millions of Americans are stepping up every day to get vaccinated. Saturday, as Andy mentioned, CDC reported that over 4 million doses of vaccine had been administered in 24 hours. To date, more than 106 million people have received at least one dose, and more than 61.4 million, or 18.5%, are fully vaccinated. As the trends in data have been indicating, cases are increasing nationally, and we are seeing this occur predominantly in younger adults. This is why you've heard me so clearly share my concern. We know that these increases are due, in part, to more highly transmissible variants, which we are very closely monitoring. And as more schools are reopening, it's even more important to make sure they do so safely, with strict adherence to CDC guidance, and for all of us to roll up our sleeves for a vaccine as soon as we can. We are learning that many outbreaks in young people are related to youth sports and extracurricular activities. According to CDC guidance, these activities should be limited. But if they are not, the risks of clusters can be prevented with cadence testing strategies as are being rolled out in so many different places. I understand that people are tired and that they are ready for this pandemic to be over, as am I. Please continue to hang in there and to continue to do the things that we know prevent the spread of the virus. If we all continue to wear a well-fitting mask, physically distance, and get vaccinated, America can and will get out of this pandemic. We can meet this moment if we keep doing our part. Everyone working together, getting vaccinated as soon as possible is how we can turn the corner. I want to briefly describe now a report in today's MMWR that describes what can happen when we do not follow proper mitigation strategies, when everyone is not fully vaccinated. The Illinois Department of Public Health and staff from a local public health department evaluated a COVID-19 outbreak associated with a bar in a rural area of Illinois. The bar accommodates about 100 people and held an opening event indoors in February. While table spacing and signs encouraged physical distancing and masking, people who attended the event reported that mask use was inconsistent and that 6 feet of distance was not maintained. The evaluation found 46 COVID-19 cases linked to this event. Of those, 26 were patrons, 3 were bar staff. 17 secondary cases occurred among contacts of people who attended the opening and got COVID-19. 12 were household contacts, 3 were long-term care facility contacts, and 2 were school-related contacts. Transmission associated with this opening event also resulted in 8 households with infections, a school closure affecting 650 children, and the hospitalization of a long-term care facility resident. As we work to get more people vaccinated and as community businesses begin to reopen, these findings underscore the vast impact of a single event, affecting communities, schools, families, and fragile elderly. And it emphasizes the impressive transmissibility of this virus and the continued need for layered prevention strategies, including reducing the number of people indoors, improving building ventilation, and utilizing outdoor spaces as the weather allows. I finally want to highlight today that CDC has updated its guidance for cleaning and disinfecting facilities and homes to reflect the science on transmission. People can be affected with the virus that causes COVID-19 through contact with contaminated surfaces and objects. However, evidence has demonstrated that the risk by this route of transmission is actually low. Cleaning with household cleaners containing soap or detergent will physically remove germs from surfaces. This process does not necessarily kill germs, but reduces the risk of infection by removing them. Disinfecting uses a chemical product, which is a process that kills the germs on the surfaces. In most situations, regular cleaning of surfaces with soap and detergent, not necessarily disinfecting those surfaces, is enough to reduce the risk of COVID-19 spread. Disinfection is only recommended in indoor settings, schools, and homes where there has been a suspected or confirmed case of COVID-19 within the last 24 hours. Also, in most cases, fogging, fumigation, and wide area or electrostatic spraying is not recommended as a primary method of disinfection and has several safety risks to consider. The risk of surface transmission can also be reduced by wearing masks consistently and correctly, washing your hands, and by following CDC and OSHA guidance to maintain healthy facilities. The main way people are infected with COVID-19 is through close person-to-person contact, typically between people who are physically near each other within about 6 feet. Additional details on this updated guidance is now posted on our CDC website. I want to end again by sharing my confidence that widespread vaccination will bring us to the end of the COVID-19 pandemic, and with my enthusiasm for how quickly this is happening, and also my strong support that we all keep taking the necessary steps to stay safe and healthy until we get there. We are vaccinating at a rate of 3 million people on average every day. This is the spirit of the American people that will help us see this through together. Thank you. I'll now turn things over to Dr. Fauci.
Thank you very much, Dr. Walensky. I'd like to spend the next couple of minutes addressing a frequently asked question and concern regarding the impact of COVID-19 disease in pregnant women on the women themselves and on their fetus. So clearly, COVID-19 and pregnancy is associated, as I'm going to show you in a moment, with adverse outcomes for mother and baby. And one asked the questions, what about the safety and importance of vaccination in that setting? Next slide. A few months ago, in November 2020, MMWR, the CDC did an analysis of about 400,000 women with symptomatic COVID-19. And though the numbers were small, it became clear then that there was very likely an increased risk among pregnant women versus non-pregnant women for adverse outcomes of the pregnancy itself and for them as pregnant women if they contracted the disease COVID-19, as shown by the risk ratios on this slide. Next slide. In the Canadian Medical Association Journal of just literally a few weeks ago, they did a meta-analysis of 42 studies involving almost 450,000 pregnant women. And if you look at the odds ratio there, comparing infection and pregnancy associated with non-infection and pregnancy, the adverse events such as stillbirth in the baby, preeclampsia, preterm birth, were really quite impressive, particularly when COVID-19 was severe in the pregnant mother. Taking a look at the odds ratio of preeclampsia and preterm birth. Next slide. Now, the vaccine data in pregnancy is limited thus far in the sense of specifically looking at safety concerns with a study designed to do so, which are actually in progress right now. But what do we know? We know that the use of adenovirus-based vaccines for other diseases were not associated with adverse pregnancy-related outcomes. Although those specific studies have not been done with the mRNA because women were not included in those clinical trials, observational data from vaccinated pregnant individuals are currently being collected both by the company and by the CDC, and no specific safety signals have been observed thus far among pregnant vaccine recipients. Next slide. If you look at the recommendation from the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology, although they don't specifically recommend vaccination in pregnant women, they make a very important statement that all pregnant individuals who choose to receive the vaccine must be allowed to do so in alignment with state and local vaccination allocation plans. Next slide. And the question is, what about the safety associated with this? As I mentioned, as of a few days ago, there have been close to 70,000 V-Safe participants that were pregnant at the time they received the vaccination. And the CDC is currently enrolling participants to analyze the data and better understand how vaccination affects pregnant women. Final slide, next. So one looks at, what about the effect of vaccination? Well, in a study recently published in the American Journal of Obstetrics and Gynecology, in 131 reproductive age vaccine recipients, it became very clear that vaccine induced robust immune responses in pregnant women, similar to that in non-pregnant women. Not only was the immunogenicity, but the reactogenicity was similar. And importantly, and very favorably, there was immune transfer to the neonates, which occurred both via the placenta in utero as well as through breast milk. So in other words, things look very good for the association between vaccination and protecting pregnant women from adverse outcomes from themselves and their fetus. Back to you, Andy.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Fauci, Dr. Walensky. All right, let's go to questions, please.
Let's go to Zeke Miller at the AP.
Thank you all for doing the call. For Dr. Walensky, you mentioned the continuing troubling rise in cases. I was hoping you'd be able to speak to, is there any discernible difference in who is being infected right now, and if the decline in deaths is at all related to the vaccination rates, particularly among the most high-risk seniors? And then extrapolating outward, what is the latest CDC projections?
Nelson. I was the former director of military affairs for Congressman Matt GAETZ. Last Wednesday afternoon, 2 members of the FBI came to my house unannounced to question me about allegations surrounding Congressman GAETZ. They told me that members of the media reached out to them asserting that I had previous knowledge of Congressman GAETZ's involvement in illegal activities. They asserted that because of that knowledge, I resigned my position as the Director of Military Affairs. I'm here this morning to state that nothing could be further from the truth. Neither I nor any other member of Congressman GAETZ's staff had any knowledge of illegal activities. I've known the congressman for over 6 years when he was a state rep in the Florida House. I worked with him for 4 years as his Director of Military Affairs. Everybody here in Northwest.
I said, hold on. My mic was off, but I told you guys to hold on. Well, my mic was off. Good morning, everybody. This is a former staffer of Matt GAETZ, and he's going to deny everything that we don't know yet. So, welcome aboard. This is the live stream. I'm your host, your Kevin Lee Father.
West Florida and the defense community knows that I had a planned departure. I left to continue supporting the military mission in a private capacity, helping to align the Department of Defense, defense industry, and academia for workforce development here in the Panhandle. This baseless claim against me leaves me further convinced that the allegations against Congressman GAETZ are likewise fabricated and merely an attempt to discredit a very vocal conservative. I'm welcome to...
By the FBI, by the Department of Justice.
I welcome any other questions.
Well, what evidence have you seen so far, sir?
I'm not here to provide any degree of evidence in support of Congressman GAETZ, only to discredit these baseless allegations.
Well, that's the reason I'm asking, sir. If you are
I hit the wrong... Sorry, guys.
investigation or anything, what?
It's Monday. I tried to mute myself, and I ended up pausing him so you guys could hear the full force of my sneeze. I got vaccinated on Saturday. Maybe I'm having a reaction. I have no idea. Obviously, there's a lot of brain fog happening right now.
Of the investigation, do you know that can lead you to, would lead you to discredit the investigation?
I don't have any specific knowledge on the investigation or any of the facts that are involved with the investigation.
Now, you left in November?
End of October, that's correct.
October, okay.
Yeah.
All right. And why'd you leave that?
So, like I said, I had a planned departure.
This is completely useless, as we knew it was going to be. This is a guy just saying, hey, they came in and said that I knew something, and I knew nothing about it. Right, the FBI interviewed you to see if you had some knowledge, and you didn't have any knowledge. And you're here to deny that there's any veracity to the things you have no knowledge of. Useless.
Involvement now is to continue supporting the military mission, to help align our
Yeah, why are we here?
community to support the defense mission here in Northwest Florida.
Have you been in contact with the representative, or with the FBI, excuse me, since that initial encounter?
The FBI hasn't reached back out to me since Wednesday.
Next question. Will you tell me why you are the best person to be speaking today? Did the communications department or the Gates' office ask you to come today, or how were you selected to do this press conference today?
I reached out to the congressman's office to let them
Yeah, I think the question was, can you tell us why you're here? What is happening right now?
know that the FBI came to the house, and to ask them if they had any other information regarding the meet.
What this does is confirm the New York Times story that the FBI is investigating Congressman Matt Gaetz. Here's the staffer saying they came to my house, but I don't know. Yeah. Oh, so the FBI is investigating Matt Gaetz. That part of the story is true. That's what you're telling us.
Media's claims and where any of that came from. Also to inform them that, hey, if here's what I communicated regarding former staff members, my interactions with the staff that exist, just so that they have firsthand knowledge as to what I specifically said. It's clear that there are people out there that are making baseless allegations. I wanted to make sure that my words were direct from my mouth. Yeah. So we have not received a grant from the Triumph Corporation. We did an initial pre-application and found out that it was not appropriate for Triumph, which is fine. We're trying to do some startup here to bring a reutilized DoD supercomputer to Northwest Florida to help bolster the weapons development enterprise here. Just the FBI that came to the house.
Do you have in your official capacity with
Is this his house?
I've never met Joel Greenberg, and my first knowledge of his name came from the media reports that came out last Tuesday. So that was my first knowledge of him.
Yeah, the Panhandle of Florida has a lot of weapons development going on. Matt Gaetz, the one PAC that donates to Matt Gaetz, is a satellite weapons development of some kind. And I knew this would happen. I've been waiting almost 2 hours for a call from the United States Postal Service. I have to take it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we weren't suited for that grant, so yeah, it wasn't supported. Yes, ma'am.
the information for today's press conference went out on the official letterhead of Congressman Gaetz, and you are not a current aide, you're a former aide. Can you explain why that would go out under his official letterhead for this press conference?
I remain loosely affiliated with Congressman Gaetz' office as a military advisor, so in an unpaid capacity. And obviously, like I stated, I reached back out to Congressman Gaetz' office so that they knew specifically what I told the FBI, and to ask them if they had any other information regarding the allegations that named me specifically.
Have you had an opportunity recently to speak to Congressman Gaetz himself since the allegation?
I haven't had an opportunity to speak to Congressman Gaetz in several months.
So, sir, you're offering yourself as a character witness on behalf of Congressman Gaetz, right?
For what it's worth.
Okay, so knowing everything that you've read about the investigation and so forth, I mean, you say they're baseless.
I'm saying the allegations that named me were baseless, and likewise, that kind of reflects on the allegations against Congressman Gaetz.
Well, I guess I'm asking whether or not you think the allegations against the congressman is baseless.
That's exactly what I just said. Yes.
Okay.
All right, last question. Right here.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I've talked to several allegations, but some people I spoke to say even if this isn't a criminal matter, that these alleged relationships, even if not illegal, speak to poor character on Matt Gaetz and that he should not be representing our district. What's your reaction to that?
You know, I think that Congressman Gaetz has been a very, very vocal advocate for Northwest Florida. In the 4 years that he's been in office, a little over 4 years, he's been a powerhouse in D.C., advocating for the interests of Northwest Florida. I think the degree of attention that he's brought to issues concerning Floridians is very, very important, and I think he is a strong congressman, and I believe any allegations of him being involved in illegal activity are baseless. I think he's spent the last 4 years drawing a tremendous amount of spotlight on himself and his activities. And
All right, I'm back. Sorry about that, guys. I knew that would happen in the middle of the broadcast because that's the way things work, right? I called them like at, I don't know, at 7:30 this morning, and this is when they call back, which is fine. My questions have been answered. I'm happy that I didn't have to wait and hold for 2 hours. Did I miss anything? Is my question.
I don't think that he would likewise be conducting anything illegal.
Sir, what kind of negotiations do you know about?
I don't think he would be doing anything illegal, says the guy. Okay, that's that then. I guess that the story of the FBI investigation is completely fabricated. So who came to your house then?
Between him and
No, ma'am.
So it's just like a friendly, can you describe for us the relationship that you currently have as a former director with them?
Just as a as-needed advisor, if he chooses to reach out to me. That's correct.
Sir, what kind of negotiations?
Thank you all so much. I appreciate it.
That's happening to Mr. Gaetz and investigators right now.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Well, that was almost as little informative as I thought it would be. And there you have it. Let's go and see if the actual media has anything to say about all of that. Let's go to the YouTube TV, and see if anyone is covering that. Outnumbered is there. The Derek Chauvin trial is going on the other networks, and nobody seems to have any coverage here. This is hold on. There's something Fox is talking about. It's Fox
routine
News.
contribution.
Outnumbered is talking about. Oh, this is Molly Hemingway. Molly Hemingway blocked me over the weekend. She put out something about how voting in mail is rife with fraud and blah blah blah. And I wrote back and said 5 states have been doing it for years now, including Utah, which is a Republican state. Works beautifully. Universally, it helps people vote. There's very little fraud involved. There's absolutely no massive fraud. It's really easy to catch someone when there's universal mail-in voting. It's really, really easy to catch someone committing fraud. Plus, really, really difficult and time-consuming to commit fraud, especially on any sort of mass scale. Will someone, at some point, take their mom's ballot after she's dead and sign it for her and send it in? Yes, that will happen. That happened in Pennsylvania at least twice this last election. Twice. Both times by Trump supporters. So that can happen. Are we able to show the Carl's Pierce Morgan interview? Tucker Carlson? I hadn't even heard about that. Is that, or did Pierce Morgan interview him? Is that happening? Oh, of course. This is from Sean. Sean's in the UK, so they care about Pierce Morgan. We over here in the States, we really don't pay much attention to Pierce. We pay as little attention to him as we pay to that former guy. What was his name? Oh, he was dumb. What was? Come on, guys. The last president guy. What was his name? Completely forgotten now. Art Nixie says only person take that interests me is Steve Bannon because Bannon loves Gaetz. Okay, is Bannon still defending? I haven't heard anybody defending Matt Gaetz except for Beard Guy here, his former staffer. CBS is accused of deceptively editing DeSantis quote. Oh, this was on 60 Minutes last night. Let's see if they have actual footage of that so that we can get more context to that. If you watched 60 Minutes last night, it was all about how Florida has completely messed up the vaccine rollout. Yeah, they do have some footage. Let's watch this. This could be interesting.
To your campaign, and then you rewarded.
Okay, so this is footage from CBS. They'll do a setup here.
Here's CBS.
Okay. So CBS did a story about how Florida seems to have given a whole bunch of the vaccine to companies like Publix grocery store that donated $100,000 plus to Ron DeSantis' campaign for next time around. It didn't make Ron DeSantis or Florida look very good at all. So they decided to give the whole bunch of the vaccines to Publix grocery stores, which are just not easily accessible from everyone. I mean, picture whatever grocery chain is not the major grocery chain in your area. But every town has a drugstore like a Walgreens or a CVS or even a mom and pop. Rather than using those, the state of Florida decided to give the bulk of their allocation to Publix. Publix has long been a big contributor to possibly Matt Gaetz, I don't know, to Ron DeSantis campaigns. Ron DeSantis is up for re-election again. So people are very curious about the number of dollars going that way. At least $100,000 from Publix, plus another $50,000 to $100,000 from the owners of Publix.
Pushing what they call a false narrative about the state's vaccine rollout. Here's CBS questioning Governor Ron DeSantis about why he gave supermarket chain Publix an exclusive vaccine deal.
Publix, as you know, donated $100,000 to your campaign, and then you rewarded them with the exclusive rights to distribute the vaccination in Palm Beach.
First of all, what you're saying is wrong.
How is that not pay to play?
That's a fake narrative. I met with the county mayor. I met with the administrator. I met with...
There's no county mayor. That's not a thing. So you can tell right away when someone, their heart rate is accelerated and they start making mistakes like that. Anybody can make a gaffe. It happens. But usually when someone is being incredulous towards somebody else. I met with Keith Gretzky. He's the greatest hockey player of all time. Well, Matt Gretzky? Rick, I met with Rick Gretzky. And he told me there's no mayor.
All the folks...
$100,000 to your campaign.
Cities have mayors, in case you're from outside the country and you don't know how it works. But cities have mayors. Counties usually have commissioners. Sometimes they have a board of representatives, but...
And then you rewarded them with the exclusive rights to distribute the vaccination in Palm Beach.
First of all, what you're saying is wrong.
How is that not pay to play?
That's a fake narrative. I met with the county mayor. I met with the administrator. I met with all the folks at Palm Beach County, and I said, here's some of the options. We can do more drive-through sites. We can give more to hospitals. We can do the Publix. And they said, we think that would be the easiest thing for our...
Oh, crap. I don't want to... I got to keep interrupting this because CBS is going to give me a copyright strike just for showing this, even though it's Fox News showing this. But CBS in the past has reversed their copyright strikes against me. So they do support fair use. And they're actually using their footage, but their footage is being used under fair use by Fox. So but I'm a nobody. By the way, still not monetized on YouTube. I was demonetized on the 3rd of February. Yeah. And now it's more than 2 months later. Still not monetized. I've requested that I be monetized again. Nothing from YouTube. They said within 30 days I'd get a response. 30 days, I think, was yesterday. Could be today. Haven't seen anything. So right now I'm not monetized. So if anybody wants to help out, just send me some money at any of these. If you want to become a patron, and I know I've been slack the last week or so. with my broadcast. That should change. This weekend, I didn't broadcast anything. I had my vaccine, and the only side effects, the second vaccine, the Pfizer vaccine, only side effects that is I had some wonderful naps. And pretty much I felt groggy the entire weekend. But I feel absolutely fantastic. No, I was sneezing a couple of minutes ago, but I've got the window open in the outhouse studios, and I'm sure that's just seasonal allergies. I was sneezing well before I got the second vaccine, so that's just this time of year for me. Let's get back to this.
Residents.
But 60 Minutes is being accused of deceptive editing for cutting out this key portion of the governor's response.
Okay.
That's a fake narrative. So, first of all, when we did the first pharmacies that had it were CVS and Walgreens, and they had a long-term care mission. So they were going to the long-term care facilities. They got vaccine in the middle of December. They started going to the long-term care facilities the third week of December to do LTCs. So that was their mission. That was very important, and we trusted them to do that. As we got into January, we wanted to expand the distribution points. So yes, you had the counties, you had some drive-through sites, you had hospitals that were doing a lot, but we wanted to get it into communities more. So we reached out to other retail pharmacies, Publix, Walmart. Obviously, CVS and Walgreens had to finish that mission, and we said we're gonna use you as soon as you're done with that. For the Publix, they were the first one to raise their hand, say they were ready to go.
Molly, indeed, it seems pretty clear this was deceptive editing then, and more.
No, you don't put, it's not deceptive editing. You don't put the full response in there. And nothing that CBS edited out there changes the fact that Publix gave him $100,000 and that they got the initial contract. CVS and Walgreens were not giving it away to the public. CVS and Walgreens were distributing in the elderly care facilities. Different thing. So Publix was the first to get it. And remember that at one point, Florida just became a free-for-all. And anybody can get it. Go ahead. There's no over 65, first responders, whatever. Well, there were medical people first. But after that, at one point, Florida just became, hey, go ahead and get it. And people were flying in from all over the world just to get the vaccine because there was no residency requirement. Anyway, Publix got the contract. Now, that same story was told by the Florida officials of, oh, well, we gave it to Palm Beach, which is a very affluent community right on the ocean. You might have heard of a gentleman named Mr. Trump. A very affluent community. They got a bunch of vaccines. What West Palm Beach didn't get any to begin with. And the reason given was, well, Palm Beach was ready for it. And they were prepared. The fire station there had been working for months. And last night they had the mayor of West Palm Beach, which is another town where the average salary is only a fraction. And when I say only a fraction, that could be any fraction. It could be 99/100ths, but this is what people say. So, because I don't remember the exact figures, let's just say half. Go ahead and fact check me. Less than half of what the, so you got Palm Beach right on the water, and then you've got West Palm Beach. It's backwards for you guys. And they had the mayor of West Palm Beach on. They didn't get any of the vaccines initially, and they said, no, we were ready. I mean, I signed a letter and sent it to the governor saying, we're good to go. And the county health people were involved in all that sort of stuff. Anyway, so this whole Publix was the first one to reach out to us, and they were the only ones that were ready. I can guarantee you, although we don't have any of the evidence of that, guarantee you that there were other facilities. Walmart, for instance, saying, no, we're good to go as well. That being said, there were folks in poor communities who had no access to the vaccines whatsoever.
These
and what don't the poor communities have? Cars. Also money.
Allegations were addressed and refuted publicly a month ago. Here's a tweet from the Democrat Emergency Management Florida Division, who says, this idea why Publix was picked has been utter nonsense. We reached out to all pharmacies and they were the only one who at the time could execute on the mission. The federal government delayed the federal pharmacy program and we yet again stepped up first to serve more seniors. Your thoughts, Molly?
Who is that from? Who is that person? The Democrat response? What? Hold on.
Seems pretty clear this was deceptive editing then, and moreover, these allegations were addressed and refuted publicly a month ago. Here's a tweet from the Democrat Emergency Management Florida Division.
That's a Democrat? Hold on, let's look up Jared Maskowitz here. Let's see what's really going on. Jared Maskowitz, director of the Florida Division of Emergency Management. And he is a Democrat. Okay. So this is a Democrat saying that maybe what DeSantis is saying is true here. We reached out to all pharmacies, and they were the only ones who at the time could execute on the mission. All right. I sit corrected. But that could also be false. Let's see. He went to Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, where they had the shooting a couple of years ago in Parkland. Let's see. He's the director of Florida Division of Emergency Management since 2019. And let me see if there's anything else we need to know about him.
Who says this idea why Publix was picked has been utter nonsense. We reached out to all pharmacies, and they were the only one who at the time could execute on the mission. The federal government delayed the federal pharmacy program, and we yet again stepped up first to serve more seniors. Your thoughts, Molly?
60 Minutes has a history of coming up with conspiracy theories about Republicans. You might remember Rathergate, where Dan Rather put forth forged documents weeks before the 2004 election that were hugely embarrassing. So this is a half-cooked conspiracy theory that they're putting forth, that the reason why Publix was chosen to help distribute the vaccine was because they had given a totally routine contribution to Governor DeSantis. In order to do that, the reporter had to ignore everybody, such as the person who just tweeted that, who explained to the contrary. She actually was offered to interview these people. She steadfastly refused to interview anyone who would disabuse her of her notion. She hid facts like Publix, as anyone who's been to Florida knows, is everywhere all over Florida. There are like 800 some Publixes all over the state. There are only like 100 and some Walmart. So it is a really good place to use if you want to get it spread throughout the community. And she also had this theory that, seniors were chosen to be prioritized for vaccination.
There are 831 Publix in Florida.
Because they were more likely to vote for Ron DeSantis or, these types of things. No, seniors are the people who are most likely to be vulnerable to COVID, either getting sick from it, hospitalized, or die from it. They should be prioritized. Yes, Ron DeSantis did go against CDC recommendations to prioritize seniors, but that's because he was using science and not politics to make his decisions. CBS and 60 Minutes has a track record of propaganda. They need to.
So I don't disagree with prioritizing seniors in Florida over with the previous strain of COVID. The new ones out there seem to be attacking young more than or just as much as the old people. Right now, half the cases in Ontario and they have the UK variant, I believe, in Ontario. Half the population in the hospitals right now that are hospitalized because of COVID are under 60, which is night and day compared to what we had with the original strain of the COVID virus. In Vancouver, in British Columbia, the Brazilian virus has taken hold, and the young there are filling up the hospitals.
To stop doing this, and they need.
They also don't have a lot of vaccine in Canada. That's a huge problem up in Canada.
To be called out. The biggest error with their report, they're ignoring.
You see, I'm fair. I'm agreeing with some of the things that Molly is saying. Molly blocked me over the weekend. For just all I did was say the absolute truth. The 100, everything I said was absolutely true. She blocked me. But I was trying to disabuse her of her notions.
Andrew Cuomo.
Here's the thing, though. 60 Minutes isn't saying, they didn't say that Publix was the only, that there were other pharmacies available to distribute the vaccine at that point. They didn't say that. They did say that he went against CDC recommendations, and Molly just confirmed that.
Ignoring Gavin Newsom, Democrat governors who have done a horrifically bad job with their COVID rollout. That's why they're focusing.
No, California's done a much better job I'm not. Yeah, she must be in the vaccine rollout. I'm not sure what a COVID rollout is. Okay, everybody cough. Don't you wash your hands, Henry. You put the sanitizer away. So California, if Florida had the same population as California, there would be at least 6,000 more deaths in California. So Florida has done a far worse job with COVID than has California. But people, oh, look, they're the same. They're the same number of deaths. Okay, but the population in California is a lot higher. Anyway, it's a per capita thing, but it depends on which per capita you're looking at.
On DeSantis, because he makes everybody else look.
Hey, has anyone seen At Random? She was supposed to get her vaccine or something this morning, I think, right? Or maybe that's at 10 o'clock?
Bad because he's done such a good job.
She might be watching. She might be watching at the vaccine center right now. Hi, At Random. Good luck with your jab.
And Tommy, to Molly's point about CBS's posturing, not only are they the ones airing the Masters coming up, but they also tweeted out about how companies...
Okay, so this whole CBS and CVS, the pharmacy, and vaccine, this is all very confusing to me.
...can fight against Georgia's new voting law.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Molly made an excellent point here. You know, if these media companies are going to be an arm of the DNC, they should just go ahead and say that they're an arm of the DNC and just be transparent about it. I think that's, again, so frustrating.
They're not an arm of the DNC. Again, nothing 60 Minutes said last night has been refuted by what they're saying. They're obfuscating. They're just shoving different things into the picture. Did they show the entire answer? No, they didn't show the entire answer. But taking away the part that they edited out, it didn't change their statement.
But I think also talking about going out.
How many have had the first vaccine in the U.S.? Just last week, Thursday, Friday or something, we passed 100 million. So we do have a large percent of the population in the United States has had at least one vaccine.
After DeSantis, I think that this is obviously very calculated. They know that he's going to be a front runner in 2024 if he decides to run. They know that he's probably got Donald Trump's full.
Oh, so Trump is not running? Because I've been saying that for a while now. Is that what you're saying?
Full support if Donald Trump himself doesn't run. So they're trying to take him out early. They're trying to hurt his name,
Trump's not running.
Hurt his reputation. They want to make him look bad. They want to do anything that they can to get the public to mistrust him. So again,
see, this is CBS she's accusing of, by the way.
And we should be looking at this and looking at DeSantis as someone that the media really wants to take out.
Because somebody pulled a hoax on Dan Rather in 2003. That's why we've discredited CBS.
And that should just make us hold him up even stronger and shine him even brighter, because they're very scared of a Ron DeSantis.
What?
To get the public to mistrust him. So again, we should be looking at this and looking at DeSantis as someone that the media really wants to take out, and that should just make us hold him up even stronger and shine him even.
So this is the lady on TV saying that the media is trying to take him out. So that should make us hold him up even higher, make him shine even stronger. This is the lady on TV. This is... Look what the media is doing.
Even brighter, because they're very scared of a Ron DeSantis. Very telling.
Guy, is this the long-term strategy we are seeing playing out, that eventual slow death by 1,000 cuts for Republican frontrunners?
That's what they're trying to do. I think there's no question about that. And it's not like this is an isolated incident with CBS News and 60 Minutes. Every week, it seems like there is some hit piece against Ron DeSantis that is extremely thin on any facts. And
that is not true. That is not even close to being true.
When they don't have new hit pieces to write, they bring out their hatchets and go back to previously debunked ones. It's actually pretty wild to watch. And I think Tommy's right, but I'd build on it. Ron DeSantis has committed 3 sins in the eyes of the media, who overwhelmingly are Democrats. Let's just be honest about that. Number 1, he committed the initial...
You guys are the media. You guys, until the end of Trump, you guys were the #1 rated news channel on cable. Fox News was indisputably the champion of cable news before Trump. Now they've lost half their audience. But you guys are the media.
Of winning. He was trailing in the polls. They were all polling for Andrew Gillum, the Democrat, down there in 2018. DeSantis pulled off the upset. So I think from the very get-go, a lot of people in the media really wanted to take him out. Secondly, he has done a very good job on COVID, and he has proven them over and over again wrong on a lot of very big things, and that frustrates them. And then finally, to Tommy's point, DeSantis is, in my view, one of the people who is pretty well situated at the moment to unite the Republican Party, from very pro-Trump people to Trump-skeptical people like myself. A lot of us really appreciate what Ron DeSantis is doing in Florida. That's a dangerous combination for the left and their grip on power. The media are the soldiers for the left, which is why we're seeing what we're seeing. Those three factors conspiring, and I think those explain why Ron DeSantis is constantly in the crosshairs.
Kennedy, your thoughts?
This manufactured outrage is trained at the wrong thing. If you're CBS and you're mad that more people were going to be vaccinated at a company like Publix that has so many different outlets, there is something wrong with your reporting that's already steeped in confirmation bias. One of the biggest problems that people have had, especially seniors, and especially seniors in communities of color, is they have not had access to the vaccine. This is something that doctors, scientists, and researchers have been saying for months, that you have to get it out into chains like this in order to get it into the arms of people who need it the most. And I can't imagine a place better suited to serve people than Publix, you know, where people, older people are going to go and shop and they can get their vaccine all at the same time. Who cares? You know, if that is going to be the effective delivery system, then step aside and find something else of value to be mad at.
All right, just ahead, Hunter Biden.
Find something else of value to be mad at. They're really upset with CBS right now. Find something else to be mad about, she says. I had lunch with Kennedy one day. Okay. I think that's probably it for right now, kids. I don't know if we'll be back later today or another time. So, huge revelations that a guy worked for Matt Gaetz and has no idea why the FBI is investigating him, because it's obviously all false. The questions that he had no answers to, obviously all false. Again, the FBI, what the staffer did, confirmed what up until now I don't think had been confirmed, except by sources in the media, but these were all lies, that the FBI is in fact investigating Matt Gaetz for criminal behavior. So, LP says, whoa, wait. LP, we've been going now for almost an hour, and you just got here. Really, that's on you. Let's go. We'll wait. We'll do a little bit more here, because LP just got here, and nothing in my life is more important than pleasing LP. So what we'll do is we'll watch a little curling right now. This is USA versus Canada. And boy, when it comes to a bonspiel...
That's hard to say.
Look at that. See? He's gonna throw a rock. That's a curling rock, and he has to put it down the ice, and he has to hit some other rocks. We're not gonna watch this. Although my dad and my grandmother just loved watching curling, and I'll watch it during the Olympics. Let's go see what Fox and Friends are outraged by today, this morning. And we'll watch just a couple of minutes of that. Here we go. And then I've got to create a new shipping label because I'm an idiot. Okay, we'll jump ahead here. We'll jump ahead.
The Biden, but all.
Okay, we got to jump through the music.
And down. I hope you all have.
A lot of people who were actually there.
And I watched the Pope. We had the Pope.
Yeah.
Are we still outraged by the border crisis? That's the question for Fox and Friends.
Aired the Pope's.
Or are we going to be more outraged by Major League Baseball, a private corporation, deciding not to have the All-Star game in Atlanta? What's going to be the bigger outrage this morning? This is Monday. This is how things get going. And I'm sure the Matt Gaetz story is going to be the lead.
Service at 5 a.m. So
Matt Gaetz, who's a frequent guest on Hannity and other shows.
I woke up pretty early. And
was it English?
It was not, but there was a translator.
Oh, okay. All right.
Welcome back from Texas.
Yeah, a little bit later you'll see in Texas they're really alarmed about this administration. I don't know if you heard, they seem to be taking aim at Texas. And I was able to spend a day with George P. Bush and a lot of people in oil and gas who are really worried about their future.
He says he might run for AG.
Oh, I think it's all but a done deal.
Really?
There's no question. I think that's his next target.
So anyway, thank you very much for joining us on this Easter Monday.
So anyway,
it's 6:02 here in the East, and our top story for the last number of weeks has been our.
Wait, which hamburgers are they canceling? I know they're canceling Coke, but which hamburgers are they canceling? By the way, I don't drink any sodas. Especially since I decided I was going to be losing weight, and so far successful. They're boycotting Coke. That's all I have to say about that. I had something else to say about. Oh yeah, if you ever get canker sores, Coke. I have a Coke in the garage fridge, my fridge out in the garage, and Coke works really well when you have canker sores. I don't know why. My son told me about this, and I was like, come on. That makes no sense. It actually works.
Crisis.
They're canceling McDonald's? Is McDonald's now? Okay. All right. McDonald's keeps sending me on the Twitters and keeps sending me, like, have some free fries. Having it. I don't know that there's anything on the McDonald's menu that is going to incentivize me enough to actually go to a McDonald's. Stephanie says she has one on her lip inside my mouth. Yeah, especially when your body, your immune system's having problems, and you start getting canker sores. I've been there as well. But yeah, give Coke a try. That's all I'm saying. I've tried knockoff Cokes as well, like the store brand, etc. If you can figure out which store brand actually comes off the Coca-Cola factory line, because it's all the same. I've been to a bunch of factories. They just change the label and the same stuff keeps shooting out. So if you can figure out which store brand is actually Coke, get that. But otherwise, I just buy Coke when it's on sale, and I have a couple of Cokes in the garage.
At the southern border, and through various ways, we've been able to get some images of what is going on regarding the children and the families. And there's
the border's still the number one thing. Okay, well, let's watch a little bit of this.
The reason they didn't want us to see them because the situation down there is dire. But now when you take a look at the ICE deportation.
Okay, but the Biden administration has now allowed cameras into the border facilities.
And the people who are being turned around. Keep in mind, remember we told you that a couple of months ago,
Wait a second. People are being turned around? Because what I've been hearing is that the border's open. Everybody come on in. But if people are being turned around.
The Biden administration announced a 100-day moratorium on deportations. But then, if ICE was going to send somebody out of the country, unless they were a national security risk, they would have to actually, Ainsley and Brian, contact the front office in Washington, D.C. and get an approval in writing to send somebody back.
Okay. So everyone is confused about this. A deportation is someone who's established themselves in the country, and you're saying, nope, you're out. An expulsion is they arrive here, and they're like, no, turn yourself around. Oh, what about the stay in Mexico policy of the last administration? It has never applied to unaccompanied minors. Never. There is no difference between that policy and what is happening right now. Would not have fixed the unaccompanied minor crisis. Wouldn't it? Wouldn't touch it because it didn't apply to unaccompanied minors.
And they didn't, for the most part.
And by the
too
time, too much paperwork. And by the time they finally get the paperwork and all the police reports, usually those people that they have apprehended are already let go into the United States. And we're talking about people with, some have criminal records.
Not the way it works at all.
I was watching Fox and Friends First this morning, and there was a lady that was interviewed down in Texas, and she said, I used to watch people come through my yard, these illegal immigrants, come through my yard in the morning when it was still dark outside. Now we're seeing morning, noon, and night. They showed some compelling video. We should actually get it and show it on our show of these illegal immigrants going under her fence, cutting a hole in her fence, some of them jumping into her backyard, it looked like.
You mean the fence that we paid for that's not being rebuilt?
No, it looked like her backyard fence.
Whoa, Brian. Mexico paid for the fence in some form, in some way, at some point in time. Mexico. Wow, Brian is off the ranch.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, unbelievable, Brian. Come on.
Look at these numbers on Steve's point on ICE deportations. Just to give you an idea, under Trump, November 2020, almost 6,000. December 2020, almost 6,000. Under Biden.
Again, deportations, expulsions are two different things.
Biden, 5,583, and in February it drops to half that. Keep in mind, too, you're looking at a March that's estimated that we have actually seen 171,000 migrants taken into custody along the border in March.
Yeah.
And then you have 18,700 unaccompanied minors. That number could be even greater, nearly double the 9,450 minors from the month before. We have nowhere to put them. The San Diego facility, the convention center already maxed out. It could be
right, and we knew that this was happening back in December. And the Trump administration was warned and asked by the Biden transition team, hey, get going on this now. No action was taken until Alex Azar took some on January 15th. They waited a month and a half. So now the Biden administration is scrambling to try and find space for all these kids. By the way, the vast majority of the migrants who show up at the border, nope, you're not coming in.
Be maxed out sometime today, and it's all because they said if you're an unaccompanied minor, you can stay.
A what? Yeah, unaccompanied minors have always been allowed to stay. That's everybody's policy. They're kids, Brian.
150 minors from the month before. We have nowhere to put them. The San Diego facility, the convention center already maxed out. It could be maxed out sometime today. And it's all because they said if you're an unaccompanied minor, you can stay. And that is a go sign from the Triangle countries and even Mexico. This is your time to come to America. And when the facts of this story come out, it's going to be horrific. They're going to make sure it doesn't hurt Democrats by the time you hear about it, but it's going to be horrific.
They're somehow going to make sure. All right.
John Barrasso and 14 other senators were not waiting for that. They went and toured the facilities. They found a way to get on the inside. And when they got in there, they took some pictures. And then this happened.
I hope this is the oh, it's not. Okay, here we go.
Well, we were told to delete the pictures. No one did. You've seen the video coming out of all of these kids crammed together under the foil blankets, huddling together. And when you have 10% of them who are positive already, you're only allowed to be there for 3 days by law. You wouldn't want your own kids to be there for 3 minutes, but many are staying there for up to 10 days. They're being tested the day that they leave. And then those that have been tested positive are just kind of moved to one side of the courtroom. They've all been exposed, and then they're sent all.
Wow, I watched this interview. They are hacking the heck out of this interview right here. I'm sure the Five is going to cover that later and say how they disabused the meaning of this, because they're chopping this interview to hell. But yeah, he went on to say that they were separated once they're tested. If they test positive, they're separated. But then they're just sending them out. No, they are quarantining people with COVID. That is happening. He just described it.
All across the country. You know, that is the real tragedy of this. They are carrying it, though, all around America. They're not being quarantined.
You just said they're being separated. What do you think? They just get sent? Okay, we take all the kids out in the courtyard. We give them the rapid test. Once the results come back, okay, you're over there and you're over there. Okay, let's go, everybody. We're going out into the country.
One of them ought to be quarantined.
Not interesting. He's saying
they are being quarantined.
They're testing them as they're leaving, and then they separate.
They also test them when they get there. They also test them frequently throughout. Remember, they're only supposed to be there for 3 days. That's part of the Flores agreement. They are, a lot of the facilities have nowhere to send these kids. So they're having to stay longer, which is terrible. But they are being transferred out. And yes, there are COVID tests taking place. And yes, if they have COVID, they separate them from the general population.
Right. They've already all been exposed at that point. And as you know, this virus...
By the way, she's about to say, like, this virus doesn't care how old you are. Same people 2-3 months ago were like, get the schools open. Kids aren't susceptible to the virus. It's 0% chance of anybody being harmed. Open the schools. And if the teachers don't like it, let's take away their vaccines. Same people.
Doesn't really pop up. You don't show symptoms for 3 to 5 days afterwards on average.
Nobody does. Kids don't, adults don't. It takes about 3 to 5 days for anyone to show symptoms.
But can we pop those numbers back up that Brian was referring to? Look
Yeah.
at this. The last full month under President Trump was December of 2020. Look how many deportations there were, 5,735. Now look at the first full month under Joe Biden, which was February of 2021. Only 2,500 or 2,600.
Right. Again, deportations, completely separate issue from what we're talking about at the border.
Were deported at that point. So more than double under Trump in his last full month. And that's back in February when we look at the Biden numbers. It's only getting worse because they're getting that message, as y'all were saying, come on over, we'll let you in, and once you step foot on American
Not the same thing. All right.
soil, you basically can stay.
Is there nobody on the set who's done any reading whatsoever? Are there none of the producers at Fox and Friends who have read a little bit of information about this issue and said, guys, hold on, because the deportations, that's got nothing to do with what we're talking about, but okay.
Sure, and Brian and Ainsley, to Ainsley's earlier point about...
Is there nobody there who can do basic math? Wait, Trump deported 5,000 when 80,000 were coming across the border? That doesn't make any sense. What happened to those other 75,000? Did they get released? Because I thought we weren't doing catch and release, and I thought there was the remaining, like, something is wrong here. I think most people, just when they see numbers, they just accept those numbers. And they're like, oh yeah, okay. No one does the math on, no, that doesn't sound right. And when I say nobody, that's not true. There's a bunch of us, people watching this show, for instance, they do the math in their head and they go like, that doesn't sound right.
The coronavirus out of Barrasso. What is interesting...
So this is a true story. I was in for, I want to say, a colonoscopy. And that's what I just said. So I was able to say what I wanted. And I appreciate that. That's why I do this show. To say what I want. So that you guys can hear what's on my mind. I was in for a colonoscopy. And it's a lot of fun. They give you a couple of drinks, you do a little bit of dancing, and then suddenly, woo! So the doctor, before the surgery, came out and did her consult with me. And she said, there is a very small chance of some sort of complication happening that includes possibility of tearing. Anytime you're under anesthesia, there runs a risk of da-da. But it's less than 5%, so you don't have to worry about it. And I said, whoa, it better be way less than 5%. And she said, actually, it is. It's way under 0.0025%. But we have to say 5% because if we say less than 1%, people don't believe it. We say 5% and people, for whatever reason, 5% is a magic number that puts people at ease. It's true. It is less than 5%. It's also less than 50%. It's also less than 90% chance. But for the general public, they have to say it's less than 5%. And then people psychologically just feel, oh, okay, good. It's way less than 1%. But again, if she says 1%, people don't believe her. Well, less than 1%? I don't know about that. But less than 5%, that puts me at ease. Give me that anesthesia.
About that.
Wait, it's snowing in Hawaii right now, Marcy? I don't believe it. That doesn't add up. Those numbers don't make any sense to me.
That is the fact that...
Oh, here we go. That is the fact. When they say the fact, that, we're about to hear something that isn't a fact. Perhaps.
They do not test the people coming into the government facilities. They only test them when they leave the government facility.
Not a fact. Not the way it works at all. In fact, I think they didn't chop up Barrasso's interview enough to leave out that fact. I don't know if I'm remembering from yesterday watching it or they just showed it right now, but they do in fact test the kids when they get there. And as a further safety measure, before they leave.
If they're going to another government facility, so they know which side of the auditorium to put the people in. Which, when you look at the numbers, it clearly has become a super spreader event down at those particular detention centers. And the thing about...
And yet, I checked just 2 days ago, the border counties in Texas are not amongst the highest of the counties in terms of COVID rate per capita.
The hypocrisy regarding what's going on right now is, remember all the people a couple of years ago who were talking about the same facilities with the chain link enclosures? They were referring to Trump's concentration camps. And now those people are oddly quiet. But it is much worse now because it is all happening during a pandemic.
Well, again, big difference there. Trump was taking families, children who were coming here, not unaccompanied minors, and turning them into unaccompanied minors. We still have almost 500 orphans that the United States government created. Almost 500.
And if the #1 goal of this administration truly is to stop the flow of coronavirus and to stop the spread and to get us back to good health, this is a lousy way to do it by letting, as John Barrasso just said, these people who are infected just scatter throughout the country.
Yeah, and
they don't do that.
He also said, Senator Barrasso went on to say, it's ironic, there's so much irony here that President Biden wants these vaccine IDs, yet he's not looking for IDs from these illegals that are coming over. And the testing is not what he's requiring all of us to do.
Yeah, speaking of IDs, let's talk about that Georgia law. So they put out the...
No.
Law to tighten up voter restrictions after the pandemic, and it's been totally misconstrued. And now, finally, the lawmakers, including the governor camp, are coming out and trying to straighten it out. But it is being totally misconstrued and lied about by beginning and not ending with the President of the United States.
Yeah, it's being lied about because they're saying, the media and the Democrats are saying that you can't give water to people standing in line. But the truth of the matter is that you can't give water to people standing in line. Yeah.
When he said it was Jim Crow on steroids, really? Dating back to 1877 when lawmakers implemented a poll tax requiring would-be voters to pay a fee? They're talking about a thing where you actually made people take a literacy test before voting? You're talking about a vote, SB 202. That all they do is say you have 17 days of early voting. You know, when it comes to voting location, it doesn't end at 5, it closes at 7. You got to be open at least 7 hours. The only thing they're saying that's different, you can have...
Wait a minute, you got to be open for at least 7 hours? I have not read SB 202. I don't even know if that's the correct number because Brian just says things sometimes. But yeah, some of the polling locations close at 5 o'clock. Other things like, for example, you take your ballot drop boxes and you put them inside instead of outside. So whereas you used to be able to go 24/7 and drop off your ballots and all of the boxes were monitored, you used to be able to do that anytime. So if you worked a shift, you had kids in the morning, you got to get them to school, then you get to work, and then you're done after 7 o'clock, you were out of luck. Because those ballot drop boxes, the whole point of which is to make it more convenient for people outside regular hours, or so they didn't have to go inside a station or polling location in order to drop off the ballots. Nope. Getting rid of them all. So yes, they're making it far more difficult to vote.
No excuse absentee balloting. Just write down your tax ID. 202. that all they do is say you have 17 days of early voting. You know, when it comes to voting location, it doesn't end at 5, it closes at 7. You got to be open at least 7 hours. The only thing they're saying that's different, you can have no excuse absentee balloting. Just write down your tax ID, take a picture of your license, get a free ID from the state. Can you send a utility bill in just so we know who you vote for, who you're voting for, and you actually belong and qualify as a voter in Georgia?
No. There's nothing in there about them knowing who you're voting for. Again, Brian just uses words. They just come out. There's no necessary connection between them and reality. It's just flowing person, man, baseball, woman, TV, camera. Voting. Yeah, thank you, Greg. I think that's what I read as well. Minimum hours for voting is 9 to 5. They allow longer hours, but that's the minimum they set. So polling places can close at 5 if they want to, instead of staying open till 7. And I'm going to go with Greg on that one. I have to read the thing. I don't think David from Snopes is in the room, but I'm sure they've done something on it as well. I'm still in my pajamas, people. I don't know what's going on. Happy Monday, everyone.
It is totally misconstrued. It didn't stop Major League Baseball for some...
It's not misconstrued at all. He just said that you need to send in your utility bill so that the voting people know for whom you're voting. He didn't say for whom you're voting. He said who you're voting for. He also just said something else. Oh, yeah, they have to be open a minimum of 7 hours. Not a thing at all. That doesn't even make any sense.
Crazy reason, being absolute...
Marcy says we need a national holiday for voting. Correct.
Cowards.
Or we just need universal mail-in balloting. Everybody can vote absentee if they want to. Just do that. Problem solved.
Pulling the game out of Atlanta. Why don't you just pull the Braves out of Atlanta? And by the way...
Good idea. Judges agree. Can we pull the Braves? So what I want... I'm so itchy. I'm torn now. Do I let the beard grow so that it stops being itchy in a few days, or do I trim it down? I think I'm going to trim it down. Not that anybody cares. So Atlanta in the Negro Leagues had the Atlanta Black Crackers. There is a Negro League Hall of Fame, or perhaps it's just a museum. Hold on, let's find out together because this is interesting. Negro Leagues museum. Okay, so there's a museum. Let me make sure this is the right thing that I'm thinking of. Yeah, this is it right here. So there is a Negro League baseball museum that commemorates, and to me, it just boggles my mind that there was a time in American sports where team owners were like, I don't want to win. I do not want the best players. Let's not make this sport a meritocracy. Let's just... Anyway, so this is a nonprofit, and they have a store. So I've been looking for hats because now that I'm playing netsing on a regular basis, the hats work better for me than sweatbands or whatever, because the hats have a brim and it blocks out the sun. And here in Southern California, when they have the courts that are north-south, which are how courts are supposed to be made, half the time you're serving directly. You throw the ball up and you're looking right at the sun, especially around midday. So I've started wearing hats. I'm not a big hat guy, but there is a shop. So if you want to do some good and you want to support Major League Baseball, I might suggest to you go the nonprofit route. Go through the museum store. As near as I can tell, these are Negro League items. The Black Yankees, there were the Monarchs, and Kansas City, the Monarchs. Let's see if I can find... There's a team that I want you to be aware of. Okay, we'll pull up jerseys here. Because no, these are just they don't caps. Here we go. Snapback caps. This is what I'm looking for anyway, so I think they have this. Let's see. Oh, here it is right here. Check this out. I'll zoom in on it for you. Here we go. There was a team called the Atlanta Black Crackers, which is awesome because crackers is a derogatory term for white people. And where that comes from, as far as I can understand, what I've always been told is white people were called crackers because the slave plantation owners or the management would crack their whips. So an insult to white people was, well, you guys were slave owners, you guys were crackers. That's where cracker comes from, because of the crack of the whip. That's disputed, but that seems to be the common idea of where crackers came from. And my entire life up until I found out, which is really pretty much how anything works, I didn't get it. I didn't understand why they were called crackers. But I would love to have an Atlanta Black Crackers logo, a logo cap or something like that, but I need it to be black and red. Maybe I'll get a Kansas Monarchs. They seem to be black and red. I'll find it. But anyway, if you're going to support the whole idea of this, number one, donate to the people fighting for voting rights in Atlanta. That's the best thing to do in Georgia. But if you want to wear it around and kind of show your support, I'm going to do this if I can. If I can find something that's going to work for me. Anyway, I didn't know this, but Negro Leagues have an actual museum. And I think that's kind of cool. Let's go back to Fucks and Friends. We had it here. Here it is.
You probably don't like Texas's reforms.
Marcy says, I have a PCL FS Seals hat. My first game was at Seals Stadium. That's a Pacific Coast League, right? California Sears were also a hockey team in San Francisco. And their skates were white. That was part of their signature. The skates were white. But the thing was, is nobody made white skates in those days. So what the trainers had to do was paint the skates white. And of course, the skates would get scuffed up over the season. And so the players complained by about halfway through the season because their skates just got heavier and heavier and heavier. It was a really dumb idea. Bye, Stephanie. Good luck.
Similar. So it's time to get the Rangers and Astros out. Cecilia Ruse, who was clearly over her head yesterday, she's on the Council of Economic Advisors. She's chairperson. She talked about the economic impact, doesn't really seem to care.
It's a little early to judge what the economic impact will be, but they have a right to vote with their feet and to express their dissatisfaction with the laws. There is undoubtedly going to be a cost. I think that was the point that the Major League Baseball was trying to make. Major League Baseball will, however, move its game, and workers at another place will benefit. You know, that is exactly the message that Major League Baseball was trying to send. These companies have the opportunity to vote with their feet, and they're using their economic power to express their dissatisfaction.
So what is curious about this, you know, at the All-Star game, to go...
This is a private corporation, Major League Baseball. They are allowed to do things they want to do.
To the will call window to pick up your tickets, you actually have to present ID. Isn't that delicious irony?
Yeah, I do not understand this argument at all. Of course you have to present your ID at the pickup window. Otherwise, it wouldn't work at all. You also have to present some sort of ID proving that you're supposed to be able to vote when you register to vote. After that, you're already registered to vote. There's no reason to have any kind of special ID in order to vote. It's voter fraud, any kind of massive voter fraud just doesn't happen.
No, I know.
They're just deciding when it's right for them.
When you look at what they did.
But individual theft of All-Star tickets or Major League Baseball will call tickets, yes, that would happen.
In the state of Georgia, they actually expanded the ability to vote. You know, do you have to show some ID or prove who you are if you're going to request a ballot, an absentee ballot? Absolutely. And so do a number of other states. But nonetheless, Brian, you're absolutely right. There's been a lot of political propaganda. One thing that this particular movement has done down in Georgia is the Democrats have united a fractured Republican Party.
They have.
Because now the Republicans are all together saying, hey, wait a minute, that is not true. And the independents down in Georgia are going, wait a minute, they're actually making it easier to vote, so what is the big stink about all of this stuff?
Read it. They should have read it.
Well, listen, Brian Kemp, the governor down there, you know, for a while it looked like he was going to face a primary challenge. That probably now is unlikely because now President Trump, who had said that Brian Kemp's got to go, President Trump sounds like he's on his side. The former president, has called for a boycott of Major League Baseball and has warned Coca-Cola and Delta, both based down in Georgia, that they could be next.
Some of these legislators are saying no more Coke products in our offices. I think what happened is Joe Biden and his administration looked at all the new laws in Georgia and they thought, holy cow, we're gonna lose votes. Democrats are now, everyone's gonna have to show an ID. We're not gonna be able to slip through the cracks and cheat. Yes, because
but again, no evidence of that happening in Georgia. None. They've audited the signatures several times, which doesn't even make sense. But anyway, they recounted everything. The Dominion machines worked fine. No votes got switched. Trump tried to commit fraud. He said, recalculate the election. I need 11,800 votes. I need you to find 11,800 votes. Trump tried to commit fraud. Didn't work. But because it ain't broke, Republicans are trying to fix it by saying, hey, you can't give anybody water in line.
when you have a mail-in ballot, now you have to prove with your bill or with your license or an ID.
You've already proved when you register to vote that you have the right to vote in the United States. How many examples in Georgia did they find of people who shouldn't have voted by mail-in ballot actually voting? There were, 2 incidents of people voting for their dead relatives? But actual people voting for themselves who were alive? I don't think they found a single example.
Who you are. And so I think they said, well, let's find some things that we can make a problem so that we can protest this and we can make a big deal out of it.
That's the whole point of the law. They found things that weren't a problem and made laws against them.
And that's when Joe Biden says, you know what? This says polls could close at 5. The governor said that's not going to happen. Polls have the right to stay open till 7. They're even adding Saturdays voting as well. So you're going to get more opportunities to vote in the state of Georgia.
That's why the president got 4 Pinocchio.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
So why not just make them stay open until 7?
The president goes out and says they're going to be closing at 5 and you're not going to be able to get water in line, like anyone cares about that. And so I think
Yes, that's the point. That's a screw you from the Republicans. Why? Why make it so that you can't receive water in line? Why? What is the point of that?
Their narrative. That's what they're sticking to. But he did get 4 Pinocchios, and Chris Christie says he is lying. Listen.
Joe Biden's broken his own rule, and now he's lying to the American people, George. He's lying about this bill. He's lying to the American people about it to cause the raging fire he said he was going to put out. I'm very disappointed.
And he went on to say about the water thing. You can have refreshments there. You just cannot do electioneering. You don't want to walk up and give somebody a coffee or a donut or a hero or a water with a Biden or a Trump shirt on. That is totally misconstrued. And I'm wondering why he keeps saying, the president, over and over again, a lie. Why Jen Psaki keeps saying a lie over and over again. But you know what it does? It hurts.
A lot of states have, you can't give somebody like a $25 Amazon gift card, right? But most states allow for items, especially under $1, under $2, whatever the state happens to say. New York, for example. I heard on Fox News the other day, like, oh, New York restricts, they don't let you give water either. No, as long as the item is under $1, you go to Costco, you buy water, you can get like 24 waters for $2.99. Don't quote me on that price exactly. But yeah, water's less than $1. You can give people water. You can give people a sandwich. And you can be wearing, and most states have laws against wearing paraphernalia and talking to people within 42 yards or 50 yards or whatever they happen to be. There are laws on that as well. So in terms of giving stuff out to people in line,
the country.
Yeah, I know. And who's giving out heroes? I will go vote in that state, whether I'm registered or not. I'll just get to the front and say, like, ID? I don't have any ID.
Now, if a Republican wins that state, they're not changing. If a Republican wins that state, they go, look, you changed the laws. If a Democrat wins, Republicans are going to go, they still found a way to cheat. They're just creating doubt in election system, which is the foundation of our democracy. Everything they complained about Trump, Joe Biden is doing on steroids. This is not close to sick. It is not close to Jim Crow on steroids. And that's what I found so unbelievable. Thankfully, the PGA Tour is not leaving, but they're condemning. The Tour Championship's commitment to East Lake has helped our partners transform distressed neighborhoods into healthy, thriving ones, which is the key to ending the cycle of intergenerational poverty. The charitable economic benefits that have...
Yeah, Washington Post did give Joe Biden 4 Pinocchios on this. I'm just reading the article right now. The fact-checkers say that, so Joe Biden said... it's sick deciding that you're going to end voting at 5 o'clock when people are just getting off work. That is not what the law says. The law does permit places to stay open until 7 p.m. And on voting day, of course, on actual election day, if you're in line by 7 p.m., you still get to vote. So the early voting hours were theoretically expanded. The previous law said that it was normal business hours. And those hours could have ended at 5 p.m., especially in some of the rural areas. But they were saying that the new hours say the new. Let me read this exactly so I don't get it wrong. The law allows individual counties to set the hours anywhere between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. So the practical effect of that could be 5 p.m., which is what Joe said, but he still gets 4 Pinocchios because they're not actually saying, no, you can't be open after 5 p.m. So that's worth 4 Pinocchios.
Led to these substantial changes would not continue if we simply walked away in need. There were 200 other...
Yeah, so that's the end of that. But yes, we need some federal minimum standards so that we have the same laws throughout the country, and I do not know why no one has brought up the 14th Amendment, equal protection under the law. One citizen should have the same protection as another citizen, whether they live in California or Nevada or Georgia or wherever else. We should all have access to the same election. I mean, this is a fundamental right. Nothing is more fundamental to our Constitution, and before that, the Articles of Confederation, to be able to vote as long as you were a white male landowner. And the white male landowners in Georgia should have exactly the same rights as the white male landowners in Rhode Island. That's all I'm saying. By the way, the Articles of Confederation was terrible. That's how this country was founded, on the Articles of Confederation and the Founding Fathers. The same one who wrote the Constitution, they thought that would work. Let's give the states the ability to do pretty much whatever they want, and then let's see how this works. 9 years later, federal government has absolutely no power. States are doing whatever the hell they want. They're just not showing up for the meetings. Well, I mean, there were no planes in those days, except the ones that the Continental Army took over with the ramparts. So, and that's why the Republicans are so upset about having to show your ID to get on a plane, because the Founding Fathers, they took over the airports so that we wouldn't have to show ID to get on planes. We learned all about that from the former guy. What was his name? God, totally forgotten. Anyway, whatever happened to him anyway? He's probably dead by now. Yeah. Speaking of dead, that's it for the broadcast, kids. That was an hour and a half. Hopefully Lindsay's gotten her fill. Wow, we went like an extra 35 minutes for Lindsay. Lindsay, you owe us all, big time. Maybe we'll be on later today. Maybe we won't. I don't know. I got to go play some netsing. I got to exercise. I got to wake up. I got to shower. Look at this mess. Guys, we will see you next time on the live stream. Thanks for watching. As promised, the whole Matt Gaetz conference was absolutely nothing. Oh, she left us? Oh, for goodness sake. Stephanie, I thought you were going to leave us. I thought you were going to go to get an MRI or something like that. Go do your blood test, get yourself COVIDs, get yourself in quarantine, get a vaccine. Everybody be good to each other. Hug a dog. But, when you hug the dog, you don't want to go over to begin with. You just go, like when you meet a new dog, you let them smell your hand. The back of the hand works best. Keep your fingers straight so there's nothing for them to nip. Let them smell the back of your hand. And then don't go over the head and pat them on the head. Go underneath. Let them know. Otherwise, it's a dominance thing. You don't want to do that. Plus, do this on yourself for a little while. May not feel good, especially on the small dogs. Be nice to dogs. Be nice to each other. Bye.